Hey there, teachers. If you teach in grades 2, 3, 4, or 5, and you want a more effective routine for how to teach all of those grammar skills, then you're in the right place. My name is Jamie from Not So Wimpy Teacher, and I'm excited to be here with you today for one of my favorite trainings, how to teach grammar in 10 minutes per day. All right, who's here? Go ahead, get in the comments for me and tell me where you are watching from, whether you are watching live today or whether you're watching the replay. I want you to get in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. What state are you from? I'm going to be watching these comments so I can see where you're from. I am doing this training from a little suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. All right. September is in Texas and Ann is in Iowa. All right, Austin, New York City, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Maine. Beth is in her classroom. Oh, Beth, I wish you weren't in your classroom today, but I hope you get done what you need to get done to have an awesome week. Mary's watching from Southern California. Mary, I just took the kids for a fall break 2-day trip to Southern California as it's quite close for us. All right, New Jersey, Washington State. Mark is in Houston. Angela's in Maine. We've had quite a few from Maine. All right. Tiffany's from Oklahoma. Where are you watching from today? We are just about to jump into a training about how to teach grammar in 10 minutes per day. This is an ideal training for teachers who teach in grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's going to be fun. We have a couple of giveaways planned. I also have a freebie for everyone who's watching. Can't wait to give that. Plus, I'm going to share with you some tips and strategies and a routine that really worked for me in my classroom. So I hope that sounds awesome. Mary's watching from Puerto Rico. Awesome, Mary. Love it. Lynn is watching from Canada while she cooks the turkey. I did hear it is Thanksgiving in Canada. So thanks for enjoying this training while you're making your turkey. Megan's watching from Phoenix. Megan, I'm in Queen Creek, so I'm pretty close to you. All right, let's get this thing going. You guys ready? Are you ready for this training? Because I have been looking forward to doing this training for a while. All right, teaching grammar in 10 minutes per day. Guys, I struggled with teaching grammar in the early days of my teaching career. I was kind of winging it. I don't know if this sounds familiar to you. Maybe you do the same thing. But I was looking at the standards. I'm like, okay, I just need to teach a lot of grammar. Hopefully we get it done by the end of the year, or even better, hopefully we get it done by the standardized testing. I'm not sure if we will or we won't because I don't really have a pacing guide or anything. So I'm just going to kind of wing it. And every week I would choose a different skill that I was going to teach. And I would go to Pinterest or TPT, and I would look for some activities that went along with the skill I decided to teach. And every week looked different in my classroom when it came to grammar because it just depended what activities I found. And so there was no routine per se, and my students never knew what to expect. Some of the activities were so much fun and they were really great. Other times they weren't that great and they were too much prep. But you never knew what was going to happen in grammar in my classroom in those early days. And wow, I quickly found out that that's so much more work and time for me with prep, and it also takes away classroom time because I'm always having to teach new routines and expectations to my students. Didn't take long for me to figure out this was not the best way to teach grammar. All right, I learned a few things in the next year or two, and I want to share with you what ended up really working well for my students in hopes that you'll be able to take bits and pieces of it or even the whole thing and make it work in your classroom. Save you some time. Does that sound good to you? Does that sound like something that would be helpful for you in your classroom? Most teachers are looking for ways to save a few minutes in the day because it seems like we have so many standards to squeeze in. Am I right? All right. I've already seen a couple people from Cayman Islands, so that's awesome, guys. Mary said, yes, this sounds good. Awesome. Mary, you're in the right place then. Now, The first thing I have just got to say, because it's so incredibly important to me, it's something I'm really passionate about, and that is grammar does not replace writing instruction. I feel like it's easy for us as teachers to slowly but surely spend more time on grammar than anything else when it comes to writing. And sometimes when I ask teachers, like, hey, what are you teaching in writing this week? They say things like how to write a sentence or subject and predicate or plural nouns. And yes, grammar is part of good writing, but it is actually only a small part. If you really look at your rubric, your writing rubric, mechanics, which is where grammar is going to fall, really are only a few of the points on the rubric, which means that somebody who struggles a lot with grammar could still do very well in writing if they're receiving writing lessons, if they're receiving lessons about coming up with topics and writing quality leads or quality introduction paragraphs or strong opinion statements, finding reasons and examples, doing research. There's so many writing tasks that we need to teach our students that if we use our entire writing block to teach grammar, we're only going to be able to help them move up on that rubric a few points. But if we start teaching them all of these other great writing skills, they're actually going to grow even more. So grammar is something we need to teach. It's standards that we have that our students need to learn and hopefully master, although every student in your class won't master every grammar standard this year. I said it. I know that sounds crazy, but the reality of the matter is that every student just isn't going to master all these grammar standards in 1 year. But that doesn't mean we aren't going to give it our go, right? We're going to try really hard to introduce grammar, to give them time to practice the grammar and assess the grammar. So what I would recommend is that you have a writing block built into your schedule. 30 minutes minimum. I love 45, but it's not always possible. So 30 minutes for writing and another 10 for grammar. This is really going to give your students time for all of the standards, the writing and the grammar standards. We don't want to replace writing with grammar. Sometimes I think it's easy to do because grammar has rules, right? And we know that dog is a noun and that feels easy for us to grade. But when we look at writing essays, it's not like that at all, right? Like there's no one right way to write an essay. And so it can feel a little bit daunting. And sometimes I think it's a little bit easier to give a grammar lesson. And so as a teacher, we kind of tend to spend more of our time doing it. And it's understandable. We love to do things we feel better at. So I want to encourage you to pull grammar out, spend about 10 minutes per day, even if you don't have 5 days if you can't do it all 5 days of the week, if you're doing it 3 or 4 days in the week, I still think it's important that it be pulled out and be something separate right before or right after your writing block would be ideal, but it can be anytime during your day. All right? Okay. One of the most important lessons that I learned is the importance of teaching grammar in small bite-sized pieces. Maybe this is obvious to you because really this is just a great lesson for any topic you're teaching, but I thought I was teaching it in small pieces. And now that I look back on it, I think, no, those are pretty big. So I thought, all right, we're going to learn nouns this week. Do you know like how much there is to learn when it comes to nouns? I mean, are we doing just what is a noun and like identifying nouns? Are we doing plural nouns and singular nouns? Are we doing possessive nouns? Are we doing proper and common nouns? I mean, nouns is actually a really large topic that's going to need multiple weeks in almost every grade level. And so I thought I was teaching it in small pieces, and I was disappointed that my students weren't getting it fast enough. But the reality was I wasn't teaching it in small enough pieces. And if you're having difficulty where you're teaching a grammar skill and you're finding that the majority of your class really just isn't getting it, ask yourself, could this be taught in a smaller piece? Could I break this down a little bit more? And I'm going to show you a sample This is what I decided on for the pacing for my third graders. And so it just gives you an idea of how I broke it down. And so in quarter one, when it says nouns, that's just identifying nouns. So that's just the teaching that it's a person, place, or thing, not adding anything else onto it. Typically, my third graders have had that lesson before, but I've never found a third grade group that didn't need it again. And so nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, all of that was just identifying those parts of speech. And then we started to add on the plural nouns, and then irregular plural nouns needed to be its own week. I tried to just say plural nouns, and I taught all the regular ones, and then I was like, oh yeah, and there's all these rule breakers, and I put it all in 1 week. Yeah, too much. So learn the hard way to break that down. You'll notice that I also have a review week. At this point, we have covered quite a bit. It's important that we start mixing it all together and making sure that they're still, that they still remember it. And then I went on to quarter two, and we worked on common and proper nouns, concrete and abstract nouns, possessive nouns. Like I said, nouns cover multiple weeks. Verb tenses, and then irregular verb tenses had to be 2 separate weeks. Helping verbs and linking verbs, 2 separate weeks. Again, we're reviewing. And as you can see, we just really broke down what's only a couple of standards. If you look at language in third grade, it's only a couple standards, but it's a lot to cover. And so we really broke it down into small pieces. Would it be helpful for you if you had a pacing guide for your grade level so that you didn't have to spend time figuring out how to break down your lessons? Do you think that would be really helpful? I am hoping there's some yeses, because I have created pacing guides for you for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. Katie says yes, and Candy says yes. So make sure and screenshot this. Shelly, make sure you screenshot this. It's notsonbeteacher.com/grammar pacing. And the free pacing guides will be there for you. You can hop over there after the training if you'd like to grab those. And yes, you can switch it up if you want, but it gives you a starting place. And I didn't have a starting place, and so I was always like winging it. And I hate that feeling of like, are we going to get it all in? Is this a good plan? So grammar pacing guides for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go ahead, just take a screenshot or write down a website address so that you can grab this after the training. I think it's going to be extremely helpful as you start thinking about how you want to break down your grammar lessons into those really small pieces that are much easier for our students to manage. All right. Okay. Now, after I learned the importance of breaking it down into smaller pieces, the next lesson was key. I told you how I was teaching grammar and that every day was so different in my classroom. That's because I didn't have a routine. I didn't have a routine for myself or my students. And if you've been teaching long at all, you know that students thrive with a routine, and that classrooms that have routines are just easier to manage. And when I realized that I needed this routine, it got me thinking, like, I don't want to every Sunday night when I'm writing lesson plans, because that's when I used to write my lesson plans, I don't want to be going to Pinterest and TBT and searching out all these activities and trying to figure out, which ones would be good, which days I'm going to do them, and then running to the copy machine on Monday morning, prepping all these new activities every single week. I realized, wow, I am wasting a lot of my time. But even more importantly, I realized I get to school and then I have to teach them, okay, here's what we're going to do today in grammar. Here's how it works. Here's how you play this game, or here's how you do this activity. And I was wasting our classroom minutes teaching them how to do these activities. And y'all, we don't have that many classroom minutes. So it wasn't working out in my class. But also, a routine is something students come to expect. It helps with their ability to plan, and it decreases the amount of anxiety they have about learning new skills. So easier with a routine. Took me a long time to figure out my routine, though, because figuring out you need a routine is much easier than figuring out the actual routine. Here is the routine that I ended up settling on. I did experiment a little bit here and there, but this is the routine that I settled on that really worked in my classroom. And as you can see, I did grammar 5 days per week. And if you don't do grammar 5 days per week, this can be modified for you. But you might want to take a screenshot of it if you want to mimic my routine. I'm going to go through each day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and give you some tips and really explain what I did that day and what worked so you can copy my routine if you want to. But here's the basics. Monday was a whole group mini lesson. Y'all got to start somewhere, right? You got to teach them the rule, the concept, the vocabulary, whatever it is. That was always done on Monday. And then Tuesday, we would do an interactive notebook activity. This was going to help them to remember what they learned during that whole group mini lesson, but also give them an opportunity to actually practice it right away. On Wednesday, we did a writing activity. This did not replace my writing worksheet, or my writing workshop, sorry. It was just an extra 10 minutes where I was showing students how grammar fits into their writing. Thursday was my students' favorite and really my favorite too, and that was task cards. We used task cards to do a scoot almost every single Thursday. And if I ever tried to skip a Thursday scoot, my students would tell me about it because this was their favorite. On Friday, we did a really short assessment. So this was my weekly routine. And whatever subject it is that is a struggle for you, make sure you have a routine, because I really think that that's the first step. Like once you have a routine, then it just starts to get easier and easier because you can find the materials that help your students the most. They come to expect it. It takes less classroom time. It takes less of your prep time. And so this is a routine I used for grammar, and let me go through it a little bit more with you. Let's start with that Monday mini lesson. Okay, this was so helpful for me. I made PowerPoints. I kind of resisted at first. I was sort of this like anti-PowerPoint teacher because my first year teaching, a really kind teacher on my team gave me all the PowerPoints she had created for our weekly reading stories. You know, like in the curriculum, there's a story you just read each week. And she had created PowerPoints for it. So like you would read the story to them. They read the story on their own. I don't know. They read it with their partner. And then you did this PowerPoint. And then they took a test on that story. And basically we taught to the story. And I didn't like the PowerPoints. I thought they were so boring. And I was just standing up there reading to my students. And I thought, I don't want to do this. So I thought I hated PowerPoints. And so I was really resistant to create PowerPoints for the grammar lessons. But my students needed to see the skill. My students needed to see words. If I just talked through the lesson, it wasn't as helpful. And to be real honest with you, I wanted to have something that was already prepped and ready to go, so I didn't have to think of examples on the spot. I didn't have any curriculum to help me with that. So I wanted this to be done, right? And so I created PowerPoints, but I made sure that they weren't going to be boring. I didn't want it to be boring. So one of my tips for you is to provide lots of opportunities for students to talk during the PowerPoint lesson, which might sound like, whoa, I want to get my students to stop talking. And I totally get that. But look at some of these slides. This one here about nouns, you can't quite see it, but it says a noun is a person, place, or thing. And it says whisper to your partner and tell them what a noun is. So I'm giving them permission to then repeat what they've read and what they've heard me say. That helps with the memorization. On this adverb slide, do you notice anything about the endings of these adverbs? This can be a turn and talk. I do so many pair shares. So they could turn and talk. Do you notice anything about the endings of these adverbs? Well, all those adverbs end in a Y. It starts a quick conversation. Now, I'm giving them like seconds to have this conversation, and then I'm doing my class attention getter to get them back to me. So I'm not giving them a long time because remember, we only have 10 minutes for the whole lesson. On this concrete and abstract noun slide, you're going to see that there's words and that we're needing to categorize them as concrete or abstract. Again, I would pair share this. The old me probably would have had one student come up and write a word and another student come up and write a word. And this would have taken a long time, and it would have meant only a few students got to actively participate. But I'm very big on pair shares and everybody participating and talking through the lessons. So, okay, lots of opportunities for student participation and student talk. This helps them to remember what they are learning. And then it's really important to keep moving fast and keep it short. My tendency was to keep repeating things over and over again until I thought every student in my class understood it. And so sometimes during a Monday lesson, when I've just introduced a brand new skill to them, I would still just keep repeating myself because one or two or three students were looking at me a little confused. And through the years, I learned how important it was during a whole group lesson that I keep going. There may be two or three students who don't understand it yet, but that's okay. I just introduced it. You don't need to master it on day one. And I would find that people in my classroom would start to get it more and more as we went into our Tuesday activity and our Wednesday activity and our Thursday activity. And that's why I have multiple days to work on the skill. And I had to keep reminding myself of that everyone doesn't have to master it Monday. There's more coming. We're going to keep working on this skill for several days. And the way grammar works, it kind of builds on each other, right? If they don't understand what a noun is at the end of noun week, well, when you're working on adjectives, guess what? You're going to have to identify the noun to identify the adjective. So it gives you even more opportunities to practice that noun skill. Okay. But that's just a couple of tips for you on that Monday lesson. I just found having something prepped and prepared for me was so much better than just sort of having a textbook that said, hey, you should teach nouns today. Tuesday is interactive notebook day, and I really love interactive notebooks. I've loved them since my very first year teaching. One of my mentor teachers had done extensive training on interactive notebooks, and she shared so much with me that I immediately fell in love with interactive notebooks. But you have to be careful when it comes to interactive notebooks, right? They can take way too much time if you were not careful. And my interactive notebooks in those early days took a really long time because I did cutesy things. Instead of focusing my time on the skill, my students were creating like art, they had cute clip art that they had to cut around and color, and it would be multiple pages. So I'd have to everyone has to get a half page of this, and you have to have a little bit of this, and you have to have, a page of these. And you got to cut out all these little circles and glue each one of them in a certain spot. And it would take us so long, maybe a half an hour. And yet most of that half an hour was actually spent being artistic, which is not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing if you only had 10 minutes to teach a grammar skill and you spent 30 minutes and they didn't learn the grammar skill. So we have to be careful when it comes to interactive notebooks. It can be such an amazing tool if we use them properly. You'll notice these interactive notebook activities have very simple cuts. It's so incredibly important to me that they have very simple cuts. Straight cuts are faster, and you'll also notice that I like to use the same sorts of cuts over and over again. So once a student gets used to cutting out that particular activity, they see it, they know how to do it the next time. And I think that's really helpful for our students. But I like the act of cutting and gluing. I know some teachers will have a volunteer do all the cutting or something, but I actually love having my students do the cutting and gluing. I think it helps those kinesthetic learners. I think it breaks up the lesson. It gets you moving, and that's important. I just got to make it simple too. It's just balancing. It's a balancing act, right? And it's important to note that interactive notebooks will take students longer at the very beginning of the year, but you can teach them to speed it up, and then it gets very quick throughout the school year. So tips. Like I said, look for activities with easy cuts. The more straight cuts, the better. The less small pieces, the better. You don't want them to be cutting out like cutesy clip art just to make it look cuter, right? It has to have a real purpose, or the cutesy clip art isn't necessary, right? All right. So important to teach students to cut fast. And this is something that we start at the beginning of the year, and then anytime I see them slowing down, we'll do this again. First of all, one thing you can do to teach your students to cut fast, students, at least most students, naturally want to cut out each little piece one at a time. And that takes longer, right? They see that they have to cut out 4 rectangles, and they go and they cut out all the way around the first rectangle, and then all the way around the second rectangle, and all the way around the third. That takes longer. What you want to teach your students is to cut the borders off first so that they then can just use straight cuts to cut all the rectangles apart. Now, my favorite trick for getting students to cut faster is to race them. Generally speaking, students, when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, or adults, they're very competitive. And so I race them and I say, okay, can you guys get the pieces cut out neatly before I get mine cut out? And so I start cutting and they're cutting too. And it's fun, but it's also getting them to start practicing cutting at a different pace. And so we will do that for a while, and then they just sort of get used to cutting at that pace. But also remember, the beginning of the year, how to cut is different. They have to learn it. But then if you're using the same sorts of cuts over and over again, like the interactive notebook activity looks the same, just has different words, they're going to start knowing exactly what to do the second it hits their desk. Some teachers have students cut as they come in the classroom in the morning. Some teachers will use their guillotine paper cutter to cut off the borders to make it just a little bit faster. I do find that just teaching my students to cut fast and using really simple cuts tends to get them cutting faster pretty quickly. Skip the coloring. There is a temptation. Some of my students so want to color. I always tell them that if they finish other assignments early, they can come back and add a color. But having them color it, if it's not adding to learning the grammar lesson, isn't going to be the best use of their time. And so, it's not an art project. And so I don't have them color it. In fact, a lot of times I photocopy my interactive notebook activities on colored paper, and that helps to eliminate that great desire to color. But even if you do it on white paper, just tell your students only when they're finished, if there's extra time, unless it's necessary, like it's saying color all the nouns blue. If it's not a necessity to the actual activity, then we don't do it. Let's do a giveaway because we've been learning and we need to take a little brain break. Let's do a giveaway. Who would like to win a year-long grammar bundle? I have these bundles for grades 2 through 5, and the bundle includes everything you would need, from the Monday PowerPoints to the Tuesday interactive notebook activities to the task cards and assessments. Everything you would need for the whole year at your fingertips. Just download and use. If you'd like to win, just go ahead and type in the comments what grade you are teaching this year. And I'm going to go ahead and grab a few winners that are just random. So go ahead and stick your grade in the comments, and I'm going to pick some random winners. And we will, if you email us, send you the bundle. All right, let's see. Lots of people teaching third grade. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I randomly found Latrice. Latrice, you're my first winner. She's teaching third grade this year, which happens to be one of my favorite grades. Latrice, if you go ahead and send me an email, jamie@notsowimpyteacher.com, I will make sure and get the third grade grammar bundle sent over to you so you can start using it right away. All right, let's find another winner. Congrats, Latrice. Let's see, who else is going to be a winner? You guys are moving fast. Oh, Courtney, you are one of my winners. Courtney is teaching second grade. I'd love to send you the second grade grammar bundle so that you can use it this year. It has all the materials you'll need for a really successful grammar routine. Just go ahead and send me an email, jamie@notsowimpyteacher.com, and we'll get that bundle over to you. Congrats, Courtney. All right, let's look for one more random winner. One more random winner here. All right. Samantha, you're my third winner. Samantha's teaching fourth grade this year. I'd love to send you our fourth grade grammar bundle. So just go ahead and send me an email, jamie@notsowimpyteacher.com, and I'll get that bundle sent right over to you so you can start using it right away. It's just download and start teaching, all right? Now, if you didn't win, don't worry. I've got another giveaway at the end of the training, I promise. I've got more surprises up my sleeve, so you still have an opportunity to win. Let's keep on going. Yes, Gloria says congratulations. Absolutely. Kelly says congratulations to the winners. So exciting. I don't generally win much. I don't generally get picked for these types of things, but I have to tell you, my first year teaching, I got picked. I won a cruise. I'm not even kidding. I won a cruise. So I might almost never win, but when I win big, I guess. All right, so we talked about Monday in the PowerPoint. We talked about Tuesday in the interactive notebook. Let's move on and talk about Wednesday's writing activity. So as you recall, I had to start the training by saying grammar doesn't replace writing workshop. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I'm passionate about helping teachers to teach writing workshop, and I think it's so incredibly valuable. So I like to pull grammar out and make it the 10 minutes, maybe before writing or 10 minutes after writing, whatever fits in your schedule. But I do like showing my students how grammar fits into writing. I like them to know that that's why they're learning it, that it's not just a series of rules I'm making them memorize for no reason at all. I want them to know why we're doing it. So on Wednesday, we only have 10 minutes, but we're going to do a short writing prompt. And I go ahead and do this in the same notebook as their interactive notebook activity. It can just be on the other side. Like one side of the page has their interactive notebook activity. The other side can be for writing. I will tell you, the focus is not on length or even quality of writing here. It's really helping them to see and use the grammar skills they're learning in class. So I have PowerPoints already created for this so that I don't have to come up with this on the spot or even each week while I'm lesson planning. And so the first slide will be the prompt, and it will remind them to use the skill. So for example, during adjectives week, it might say write at least 3 sentences. So you can see it's not long because it's not really about length. Write at least 3 sentences that describe your bedroom. Remember to include adjectives in your sentences. The next slide is going to say trade papers with a partner and circle all the adjectives in their writing. Underline the noun that it's describing. See how we're using both nouns and adjectives. We're still reviewing. And I love having them trade papers. You do not have to have them trade papers, but I do enjoy it. The third slide in the writing activity is to raise your hand and share an adjective your partner used. I found that it's so much fun to get to like brag on your partner. Like my partner used the adjective red, and I just find it's really fun. Now you don't have to trade papers if you don't want to. If you have a student who's really uncomfortable with that, then I wouldn't force them to. One warning I want to give you with the prompts is you know your class best. And I know you spend a lot of time getting to know your students. And we want to have prompts that every student in your classroom could respond to. So for example, this one, write at least 3 sentences to describe your bedroom. If you have students who don't have a bedroom, this wouldn't be a great prompt, and I would want you to edit it. It could just as easily be read at least 3 sentences about the place where you sleep at night. But if that's going to be really embarrassing for a certain student in your classroom, then it wouldn't be the best prompt for you to use. And so I did my best to come up with prompts that most students would be able to easily, because we don't want to give them something really hard. They only have 10 minutes. They don't have a lot of time to like come up with all these ideas. So it should be something super easy to respond to. If you look at the prompt, you're like, I know that there's a student or 2 students in my classroom where this would be uncomfortable, then I would always encourage you to change the prompt so that it is more appropriate for your classroom. I did my very best, but I don't know your individual students. And so I just wanted to kind of put that caveat out there. Know your students, look at the prompt ahead of time, and just make sure if you have students with very different backgrounds that it's something they could respond to as well, and that they wouldn't be embarrassed. All right, some tips. Make sure the prompt is super short. This is not about writing, a quality 5-paragraph essay or something. This is just about putting some words on the paper. It said 3 sentences, but honestly, if a student wrote only 2 sentences, I don't care. If they wrote sentences down and they used adjectives, that is the win, right? So it's just something super short. Tell what you ate for breakfast. Describe your backpack. It's something that everyone could quickly do. They wouldn't have to sit there and be like, it's not tell about a time that you felt sad. That will take students a while to sit and think about. We want to give them something really quick that they could respond to. I love to include the time to share, and that's the time where they're trading with their partner and their partner's getting to look and underline and kind of brag about their work. I feel like it adds some fun to this day, okay? All right, I told you this is my favorite one, so I'm so excited to be to Thursday to talk about task cards. I really, really enjoy talking about task cards because my students love task card scoots. I had no idea what a task card was when I became a teacher. I had no clue, but I'm so excited that I found them. Now, a task card can look so different depending on the skill of the subject, but the basic idea is that it's a card with a task that a student would complete, and then they have some type of recording sheet where they complete the task. There's lots of things you can do with task cards. They can be used for games. One of my favorite things to use them for. I loved to just have a stack of task cards sitting on the table in front of my classroom. So if we finished our lesson and we still had like 2 minutes before we're lining up for recess, I could just take a couple of task cards and I could put them under my document camera or read them aloud, and students could respond on their whiteboard and show me their whiteboard. It becomes just this quick activity with zero prep that could be pulled at any time. But what we would do on our Thursdays, every Thursday in grammar, is a task card scoot. Now, there's lots of different ways that teachers use task card scoots. I'm going to tell you my favorite way. I tried a few, and this one was my favorite. I felt like it just worked the best for me students in the time that I had. So I would take the task cards and I would spread them around my classroom. You do not need to have one task card for every student you have, meaning like if you have 26 students, you don't need 26 task cards. I kind of thought that at the beginning, but you don't. Most of my task card sets come with 24. Sometimes there's only 12, like irregular nouns. But you don't need a task card for every student. Set them around your classroom on desks or tables, whatever you've got in your classroom, counters. And then I would have my students start with the task card that was closest to them. So maybe there was one on their desk, or maybe it was on their neighbor's desk. They would start there. It wouldn't necessarily be number 1, right? Whatever one's closest to them, it might be number 16. They would do that task card first. And then as soon as they were done with that task card, they would move on to the next one that they saw. So that means that some students might take a couple of minutes on a task card and others might take 20 seconds on a task card. I love doing it this way because that is built-in differentiation. Some students need more time to think through the task card and some students don't. And so I feel like a lot of teachers will set a timer and like you get 1 minute for each task card. And if you finish it earlier than that, you just got to stand there and wait. I didn't like that because some of my students need more time. Some of my students need less time. I want them to be working the entire time. I don't want them just waiting. So I don't set the timer like that. I'm like, as soon as you finish a task card, move to the next, keep going until you finish them all or until we are done with task cards for the day. Some of my students are not going to finish all 24 task cards, and that's okay too. The important thing is they spent 10 minutes actively practicing our grammar skill for the week. That might mean they did 12 task cards, might mean 10, it might mean 24. So I allow students to move at their own pace. I feel like that's part of differentiation, and it keeps them working the entire time, practicing the entire time. It keeps behavior a little more in check. Also, another way you can differentiate, if you have students who are really still struggling with this skill, allow them to use their interactive notebook if they need to. They put together that interactive notebook activity on Tuesday and that writing activity on Wednesday. They have notes. So if they need to, I would always just tell my students, if you need to bring the notebook, then go ahead and do so. I think teaching students to use resources when they struggle is like a crazy important life skill, right? We use resources when we struggle. If I can't figure out if a word is an adverb or an adjective or what have you, I'm going to look it up on Google. Well, I want to teach my students to use resources, even if they aren't allowed to use them on standardized tests. I'm thinking in life, you get to use resources. So I allow them to bring their notebook if needed. Now, there's only 10 minutes, right? I will say at the beginning of the year when students don't know how to do task card scoots yet, 10 minutes, tough. But just like anything at the beginning of the year, we got to teach them, right? It's just about teaching them how to do the scoot, what's expected of them. And as you teach them, they get faster. But in order to keep myself on pace, I would set a timer. So if you only have 10 minutes, set the timer for 10 minutes. If you have 15, great, set it for 15. When that timer goes off, our task card scoot is over, which means that maybe you won't finish all of them. And that's okay, because remember, the important part is that you spent all of that time actively practicing the skill for the week. The goal isn't to be fast. The goal is to be accurate. And so if you need to take a little more time to think some through, then you should. If it takes you a little while longer to read the task cards, that's okay. So that's how I keep on time. Because people are like, oh, it takes me too long to do the task cards. Just set a timer. It's over when the timer goes off. If I didn't set a timer, I feel like I would go until the very last slowest student finished. And that's not necessarily what's best for my whole class, right? It's not even necessarily what's best for that student who becomes embarrassed that they're the last. You can also scoot with certain students or a small group of students. If you have students who are struggling with the reading or need extra support, you could scoot with those students and maybe read the task cards aloud and let them use their notebook to try to help come up with the answer. I love to reuse these cards for test prep too, by the way. We use them every Thursday, but I'll use them again when we get close to test prep. There's really is no rule that you can only use a task card set once, right? They won't remember. It's not like they're going to be like, oh yeah, back on adjectives, card 16. I already did that. I already know it's this answer. They don't. So you can pull them back out after they've done a Thursday set. That can be the set you keep on your table for a couple of weeks in case you have extra time. It can be exit out of the classroom. You show them a task card. It can be entrance in the classroom. You show them a task card. As far as checking answers, I would not check all of the answers. And there's a few things you can do, and it's up to you. Some teachers are like, I grade the task card recording sheet. And you can do that if you feel like your students are ready for that. I consider Thursday's task card to be part of the practice, not an assessment. And I only grade things once I feel my students have had adequate time to practice. So I didn't grade it. What I would do is I'd walk around. And if I notice a lot of students were having trouble with number 12 and number 16, then I would stop my timer a minute early and go over number 12 and number 16 with the whole class. I tried to notice which ones the most students were having trouble with and then address those ones. Another thing you can do is display the answer key and have your students self-check their work. Okay, so lots of ideas. All right, task cards, so fun, love to use them. And after you've already prepped them, find ways to keep using those same task cards over and over again. Add them to a center with a game board. Use an easy game board like Connect 4. In order to earn your turn, you answer a task card. Just keep using them, all right? Friday is assessment time. This is what I would grade every week for our grammar score for the weeks. I did not grade the task card scoot. That was more for practice. So the assessment, this was so important to me that it be short. I had some assessments that were given to me and they were really long. Basically, every sentence had multiple correct answers. It was hard for me to grade. So when I graded assessments for my students, I was like, short, like no more than 10 questions, one right answer kind of thing. Most of my students could complete the assessment in only a few minutes, which means if you wanted to go over any answers from the task card scoot before the assessment, you could, because the assessment itself generally doesn't take a full 10 minutes. So if you noticed some problems on the task card scoot, maybe right before the assessment, you could go over that. Also, if you have students who can't read, we want to know if they can do the grammar skill, right? If you just hand this to a student who cannot read, then we don't know if they can do the grammar skill either. If you have a student who is not a reader, you already know that. That's something I'm sure you're working on in reading and phonics. But if they're not a reader, we want to know if they know the grammar. Pull them to your back table during assessment time and read aloud the sentence and the directions so that they have an opportunity to show you whether they know the grammar skill. Okay. My assessments, I created them so you could do 2 per page and save paper when you're photocopying. All right, we talked a little about differentiation. It's important to me. I'm always trying to share with you easy ways to differentiate. You can print the PowerPoint. My partner teacher had a few students that she really needed them to have the PowerPoint right in front of them. You can print the PowerPoint. You can print it like 4 slides to a page so that it doesn't take too much paper. But sometimes you have a student who cannot follow along if it's all the way up on the board. And so printing out the PowerPoint is a good differentiation for them. You can decrease the amount of writing. It doesn't have to be 3 sentences. It can be 1 sentence, right? 1 sentence. I mean, that's, if they're showing the skill, then that's fine. You can adjust the number of task cards, right? You can tell a student or a group of students that they only need to complete 12 task cards or 10 task cards. Of course, the natural differentiation is when the timer goes off, that's how many task cards you got through. You can also scoot with students who are struggling. And then, of course, you can let students use resources during task time or even during assessment time if that is something that's necessary. You can also read assessments out loud to your students. Lots of opportunities to easily differentiate without creating all brand new lessons because we ain't got time for that, right? All right. My grammar units, I was telling you about them, and there's still an opportunity to win some. So here we go. But the grammar units, they're year long. So when you saw that 3rd grade pacing guide, that meant there was a unit for every single thing on that pacing guide. I have them for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they are different for each grade level because I wanted to hit on the standards that the grade level specifically covered. There are PowerPoints to use on Monday, which of course you could open in Google Slides if you needed to. There are interactive notebook activities for Tuesday with the easy, simple cuts, the repetitive type of cuts. There are slides for the writing activity on Wednesday with prompts already done for you. There are task cards for every single Thursday and assessments for every single Friday, okay? And we're in the process of doing this cool new update. We are adding digital assessments to all of the bundles. So it's a Google form, it's self-grading, it has teacher directions on how to assign it and tips for using them. They've already been added to the 2nd grade bundle. They're in the process of being added to 3rd. 4th and 5th will have them by November. So if you purchase a grammar bundle, you'll be able to download them again as we add these digital assessments for free to grab that if you want to use a digital assessment. We still have the printable assessments in there, but some teachers would prefer to just do a digital assessment and have it be self-grading, and others don't necessarily have technology. So we're going to go ahead and add these digital assessments to every single bundle. So if you already own a bundle, make sure, if you already own 2nd grade, go re-download it because they're all there. 3rd grade, we have them done. It takes a long time to upload 32 resources. So they're in the process right now. That'll be done really soon. And 4th and 5th are done, and we're going to be uploading those very shortly. Yes, Kelly says, I love the digital update, right? Yep, we wanted to make it even easier for you to assess your students. If we can take away the grading and the photocopying for you, we thought that's time saved. All right, how about a giveaway? And then I've got another surprise for you. Let's do another giveaway. I'm going to give away some more grammar bundles. Tell me how many years you've been teaching. Get in the comments and tell me how many years have you been teaching. And you have a chance to win either the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, or the 5th grade grammar bundle. Okay, so this is for teachers who teach in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th. Tell me how many years you've been teaching, and let's find some random winners. Okay, Katie says it's her 3rd year. Don't say only. Go with it. It's your 3rd year. Own it. It's her 2nd career. Awesome. Katie, I had a career before teaching as well. I get it. Katie, you are one of my winners. And go ahead and send me an email, jamie@notsoambteacher.com. Let me know what grade level grammar bundle you want, and we will get it sent to you so that you can start using it right away. Congrats, Katie. Let's see. I'm looking for some more random winners. Let's see what we got here. Sherry. It's her first year, y'all. She teaches third and fourth. That is tough on a first-year teacher. I think we can all feel for you. Sherry, you are one of my winners, though, so congrats. Go ahead and send me an email, jamie@notsoambteacher.com, and let me know whether you would prefer the third or the fourth grade bundle, and we'll send whichever one you choose to you so that you can start using it right away. Congrats on your first year. Hope this helps make it just a little bit easier. All right, I'm looking for another winner here. All right, Shelby. It's Shelby's second year. She's teaching fourth grade. It's her first year in fifth grade. So I think she's teaching fifth this year, having to move grade levels each year. That is tough, Shelby, but I hope we can make it a little bit easier for you. Go ahead and send me an email, jamie@notsoambteacher.com. Let us know which grade level it is that you would like for us to send. I think it's fifth grade, but let us know and we will get that sent off to you right away. So congrats, Shelby, on being one of our winners. Jill, I wanted to do something super special for you. And so I put all of my year-long grammar bundles on sale for 30% off. That is the largest discount that I think we've done on our grammar bundles in quite some time. So this is an amazing offer. In fact, TPT doesn't let us do 30% off. We have to do some behind the scenes work to make it be 30% off. And we're excited to do that for you. So right now, all of my grammar bundles are on sale for 30% off. 30% off. Second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. It's everything. It's the PowerPoints, the interactive notebooks. It's the task cards. It's the assessments, directions, everything you'll need. You can find the bundles at notsoambteacher.com/sale or use this QR code right here. Go ahead and take a screenshot of it and you'll have it. But 30% off is truly one of the biggest sales I do on grammar ever. And so I want anyone who feels like their class would really benefit from this to go ahead and take advantage of such a big sale. Okay. All right. I want to answer some of your questions. So go ahead and screenshot this. You have the address, notsoambteacher.com/sale. So you can grab it for 30% off. And then I want to make sure and answer a few questions for you. Also, if you enjoyed this training, don't forget that we have professional development courses that you might really enjoy as well. I have a math course, the Not So Be Math Masterclass, which will help you to teach a math workshop with whole group and centers and small group. You can find more information at notsoambteacher.com/awesome. If you would like more information about implementing a writing workshop to go along with your amazing grammar lessons, go ahead and check out the Not So Be Writing Masterclass. I really broke down how to use 30 minutes to teach a really quality writing workshop where your students will actually grow as writers, no matter where they're starting now. You can find more information about that at notsoambteacher.com/yes. All right, let me go ahead and answer some of these questions here for you. Marcella says, does the bundle include PowerPoint slides? Absolutely. It includes the PowerPoint slides that you'll need for Monday's lesson, as well as PowerPoint slides for that Wednesday writing activity as well. You can open up PowerPoint slides in Google Slides if you need to. Abigail says, what advice do you have for first-year teachers that are going through all of this for the first time? Abigail, I think one of my biggest piece of advice for you is to be gentle on yourself. I feel like as a first-year teacher, I constantly thought, oh, these poor kids, they would do so much better if they had a different teacher because I'm a first-year teacher. I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't think that was true. I ran into students later and parents later, and as long as you're building relationships with these students, that's going to be the thing that they remember way longer than what an adjective is. So be gentle on yourself. Create lots of routines in your classroom, like we talked about with grammar. Creating a routine will create math routine, create a reading routine. Don't create it all today, but take one subject, create a routine, then take the next and create a routine. And I think that'll make things so much easier for you. But those of you, we have a lot of teachers on here who are seasoned and have taught for a long time. So if you have a tip for Abigail or any of the brand new teachers watching today, go ahead and stick it in the comments. We definitely want to lift them up and be great supporters of our first year teachers. Kelly said, we're entering month 2. Do you feel like it's too late to begin this? No, no, I don't. I had to start it in the beginning of the year because it took me half a year to figure out what I should do. I think anything that's going to save you time and energy, starting now is better, than starting in 2 more months or 3 more months. You might not start with lesson 1 this year. If you've already taught some of those skills, you might be skipping some, and that's fine. But I think getting your students into a routine for grammar is really important, and breaking down those skills into small pieces so that they can start to really master them is so important. That if you didn't start at the beginning of the year, that's okay. You were probably busy teaching routines and procedures for other areas of your classroom, and now maybe is the best time to start. So no, I don't think it's too late. It's never too late to do stuff that you think is going to make your classroom easier to manage. Krista said, do bundles include the paper and the digital versions? They are going to include all. We have printable bundles that include all the printable things you need, and they're going to include digital assessments. But if you don't want any printable materials, then we have digital bundles that are available that only include digital resources. So I hope that helps you, Krista. Lachelle says, any suggestion for review? When we learn a new skill, the previous ones are forgotten. Well, it's really important. The more you break it down, the better chance we have of continuing to remember it, right? But also, remember to let grammar build on itself. So like I said, you teach how to identify a noun. When you're identifying adjectives, say, what noun is it describing? Take the task cards that you've already created, put them into centers in games, put them at the front of your room before they can leave to go to lunch. They answer a task card for you. Don't let it be something you stop talking about. When you read a reading passage during reading group, say, hey, did anyone notice a really interesting adjective here? Let it be a conversation that continues throughout the year once you've taught the skill. But also know there's a lot of grammar rules. There's a lot to remember, and every student isn't going to remember it all this year. And that's okay too. There's a reason why like all the parts of speech are in the 1st grade standards, the 2nd grade standards, the 3rd grade standards. It's because it takes a while to remember it all. And so we're just going to keep building that knowledge for them. Joyce said she bought these years ago. If there's updates, will mine automatically be updated? Well, you'll need to re-download it, Joyce. So yes, if you have the 2nd grade bundle, all the digital assessments are already there. 3rd grade, they're in the process. If they're not already completed right now, they're going to be there within the next couple of days. So if you head to your purchases on TPT and re-download the material, you'll have all of the newest updates. Okay. Christina says, do you do word work? Where do you teach phonics? I am not a fan of word work. I did it. I did the whole word work, read to self, read to part. I did the whole thing. I read the book and everything. I found it to be just way too much prep work, way too much for my students to keep up with. So I didn't do word work, but I have 10 minutes for grammar. Now she's saying, where do you teach phonics? Phonics is part of reading groups. Phonics rules happen in spelling. I do think that you should teach a spelling lesson, and we're working on our spelling curriculum. We have it available for 3rd grade right now, but that's where a lot of our rules are specifically taught to students. But I don't do word work. To be real honest with you, it's just a practice center that most people put something in that isn't helping our students to really grow and master a skill. It's not a place you can teach phonics because you're not actually there. So it's something they're doing individually. But if you do word work and it works really well with your students, then by all means, do word work. It just wasn't working really well in my classroom. Beth is asking which grade level she should buy because she has students at different levels. I highly recommend that you buy the grammar unit for the grade you teach because that's going to be the standards you teach. Everyone has students at different levels, right? When I taught third grade, I had students at first grade, second grade level, fourth grade level as far as reading, but I was still responsible for teaching the third grade standards. So I don't think it would have been fair to get the second grade ones because it was a better fit of reading level, but not have taught the standards that my third graders were supposed to learn. So I would still use the third grade one and I would differentiate for your students who are struggling with reading, using some of the skills that, or some of the differentiation ideas that I shared in the training. I hope that helps. All right. I have had so much fun today, but it has been 1 hour and we told you 1 hour and I want to make sure and honor your time. So thank you so much. Now, do not forget all of the grammar bundles are on sale for 30% off. And we don't do this very often, y'all. In fact, I cannot remember us ever offering 30% off. So I want to make sure you guys know that all of our grammar bundles are 30% off. That's grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. You can find them at notsonbeteacher.com/sale. And yes, there are answer keys, Beth, for everything you need an answer key for. We even added black and white versions of task cards. We're adding answer keys to interactive notebook activities. All of these edits are done for second grade, almost done for third, and you're going to see fourth and fifth in the next month. So you can re-download them when we finish those updates. All right. If you missed the beginning of the training, as soon as I'm not live anymore, go back and watch because I gave away free pacing guides for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I want to make sure you grab those if you missed that part of the training. Have a not so wimpy week at school this week.